Holy moly, I got that right. All right, can you see my screen?
I sure can.
Okay, cool. And I guess participants are starting to file in. I see it's up to about 30, but I am not going to, I guess, delay. Let's get this going. So I have 4 slides and promos. The first one is astronomers turned data scientists, which is going to be a virtual meeting at the end of the month. It's free, and please take note of that tiny URL. There's 3 groups that are invited to this. It's former astronomers that are working in industry, current researchers using big data methods, and those interested in data-related careers, which would be the people joining this webinar today. Second slide is about the upcoming webinars. We've got several meetings coming up. Exoplanets is going to be in Vegas, and these are in-person meetings. Woohoo! And then DDA is going to be in New York City. And then the last 2 are for the meeting in Pasadena, which is the AAS summer meeting, which I know that we had the abstract deadline yesterday, and it looked like it's going to be a very big meeting. So there's that. And here's some highlights for that meeting. Some workshops that are being held by some conveners on the Committee on Employment, and then some career resources, the career hours and the one-on-one career consultations done by none other than Elena G. Levine here. So please sign up for those. And then finally, my last slide is just about where you can find the career resources on our website, and also referencing the membership email if you need to get in touch. So there's that. Okay, we've got about 50 people. Some people are still filing in. So Elena, if you wanted to get your slides ready, we will be ready for your webinar, which is how to be persistent in the face of rejection.
I am in a great mood to do this presentation, Diane. Thank you so much. For everyone who hasn't had, I haven't had the chance to speak with before, I am Elena G. Levine. I'm president of Quantum Success Solutions. I am a professional speaker. I'm an author. I'm a writer. I have a column in Science Magazine called Your Unicorn Career. My first book was called Networking for Nerds. My next book is called Create Your Unicorn Career. And I'm a STEM career coach. So I work extensively with astronomers, cosmologists, cosmetologists, sorry, I had to put that in there. Not many astrologers though, planetary scientists, and all sorts of different STEM educated professionals just like myself to help you find, create, land, and keep your unicorn career. And today, what I want to talk to you about is how to be persistent in the face of rejection. I would love to hear from you. You are welcome throughout this whole session. I have the chat open. Throw your questions in the chat, throw your comments in the chat. And I just want to start by asking you, and you can put this in the chat, how many of you have ever faced rejection in your professional or personal life? Anybody? Anybody? Throw it in the chat. Anybody have experience? I see Marianne, you raised your hand. Excellent. Put it into the chat. Oh, a bunch of people raising their hands. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, Marley, yes. We have all faced rejection. I know those of you who are not writing it, you felt it, you've experienced it, because we get no's every single day. And so what I want to talk to you about today is how we can take that no and turn it into a yes for us. Turn that rejection into reflection and reactivation and reignition of our own commitment to moving our careers forward. And this takes persistence, it takes bravery, it takes ambitions, it takes so much that you already have at your disposal. I see so many people already starting to put into the chat all the different types of rejections you've had. You know, Stephen, you wrote that you've had rejection. I love to hear from you, all of you, the types of rejection that you would like to share. I have experienced rejections in applying for jobs and getting a no. I've experienced rejections in trying to apply for and not getting fellowships, scholarships, internships, opportunities, even opportunities to just have a conversation with somebody. All of these things are rejections. And what I have decided to do in my life is, yes, I ruminate in the rejection. I'm not going to lie. They suck. They suck big time. Rejection stinks. but I have decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the energy that I get from the rejection, and I'm going to harness it to create a supernova of activity for my career advancement. That's what my commitment is. So I see so many people are beginning to put in the chat the different types of rejections that you're getting. I see somebody wrote many different types of rejections for PhD and postdoc positions. Somebody wrote that they had applied for 25 REUs or research experiences for undergraduates and got 0 offers. I feel your pain. I feel you. I see you. I know what you're talking about. Today, we're going to talk about specifically how to actually get over that, how to move beyond that. So I wanted to just give you a couple of points before we get started. First of all, you are welcome to live tweet this talk. My Twitter handle is @AlenaGLevine. Please also tweet with @AAS_office, #YourUnicornCareer. Anything that you tweet, I'm going to promote again for you. So I want to be able to promote you. Also, you are welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the primary way that I send out free career planning resources. That's my LinkedIn right there. It's linkedin.com/in/AlenaGLevine. Diane, if you could throw that LinkedIn profile URL into the chat for everybody for ease, I would appreciate it. Please connect with me. No need to customize the invitation. I just want to be able to serve you and give you free career planning resources. And the final thought I wanted to give you, and this is something that Diane mentioned, is that as a AAS member, one of your benefits is that you get a chance to meet with me for a private, confidential career coaching session at a very, very deep discounted price. And Diane, if you don't mind also throwing that link a couple of times over the course of the next hour into the chat, sign up with me. You are welcome to sign up with me in increments of 30 minutes where we can talk about those REUs, those postdocs, those PhD programs, whatever is on your mind, I can help you advance in your career. And that's my role, is to help you think about and explore careers in a new way and advance your career. So I hope you'll sign up and we can meet together to talk about it. Now, let's get started with the issue of resisting rejection and aiming for being persistent. And I want to start with a #spoiler alert. I love spoiler alerts. Noreen's on the call. Noreen, you know I love spoiler alerts. #spoiler alert. Every rejection, challenge, loss, and failure, I see it as a gift to make me stronger, more persistent, more agile, efficient, creative, productive, aware, and just an all-round stronger, better problem solver. What I have to do this is I have to clarify for myself, and I have to be mindful of this, and I'm going to give you techniques to do that momentarily. I have to be mindful that I am not this moment. I am not the rejection. I am not the 50 PhD programs that I applied for with 0 offers. That is not who I am. That is just an action that happens to be taking place, but that is not me. It doesn't define me. It doesn't define my existence, and it certainly doesn't define my previous, my past, my present, and absolutely my future success. I will define it myself. So I'm going to be thinking about that very, very strongly and very carefully in these moments, because rejection, because it does stink so much, it messes with our brains. Don't you see? You've had this experience. It messes with our brains, and it telegraphs to us that there is something wrong with us, that we are at fault, that we are making a mistake, that we are bad, that we are not worthy, that we are less than others. That is not true. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that we clarify for ourselves in the moment that I am not this moment. I'm going to talk to you more about it. The challenge and the rejection also gives me the ability to solve the next problem that I'm going to be facing in a really more agile and exciting and more productive and innovative way. And it helps to cushion me. It gives me insurance to cushion me against or prevent other challenges that may be coming in the future. Now, some of you have seen this image before, but I want to share it with you for those who haven't seen it. So I am a runner, and if there are any runners or walkers or rollers in the audience, throw it in the chat, because I love to connect with people who do this type of exercise. And I love to do half marathons. That's my sweet spot. I'm going to try for a marathon soon. But here's a picture of me and my running buddy, my best friend from high school, crossing the finish line at the Philadelphia Half Marathon. Does anybody in this photograph, does anybody recognize or see anything odd about this picture? There are two things unusual about this photograph. Tell me what you see if you see something weird about this picture. You can throw it in the chat. Do you notice anything odd about this? We're crossing the finish line of a half marathon. The time, Leon, you are absolutely right. The time. It is, we were running and walking and crawling and limping and crying for 4 hours and 14 minutes. And so that is a very, very slow time. I think I calculated, if somebody wants to quickly calculate 13.1 miles, it's definitely over 20 minutes per mile. I think it's something like 20, maybe even 25 minutes per mile. It's very, very slow. And you're right, Rosario, you said it was over 4 hours, but I finished it. That's why I'm dancing in that photograph, because I did finish it. And that's my goal with any race. It's to have fun and to finish in that order. But do you notice anything else about the photograph? Do you see anybody else behind us in the picture? Probably not, because guess what? As far as I know, we literally came in last. We literally came in last. And you're right, Stephen, there's cars behind us, most likely because they're sweepers. We literally came in last, as far as I know, in this race. Now, for some people, they would mark this as a very sad occasion. They would be very upset with themselves. They would feel this as a failure. They would view it as something wrong that they did. But the reason I'm smiling and dancing in that photograph is exactly the way you put it, Rosaria, excuse me. It's because I had a different goal for myself. And I knew that I wasn't going to do, quote unquote, as well as I have done in the past. I knew that I wasn't going to do as well as other people. But I am in a race with myself and myself alone. And this race at the Philadelphia Half Marathon is a perfect metaphor for my entire life. I am in a race with myself. And so when I experience a seemingly failure or a challenge or a mistake or a rejection, rather than look at it as something bad is happening to me, I'm going to look at it as something wonderful is about to happen that I am going to make happen. And so I made this loss, if you want to call it that, me coming in last with my buddy, I made this into a triumph, because that is how I have committed to live my life. Now, it has taken a long time, a hugely long time. It's taken mindfulness, intention. It takes hard work every single day to embody that into my life. And I don't do it every day, 100% of the day. There are many times when I get a rejection and it just topples me onto the floor. Really, really sad. But I'm going to strive for this goal. Because if I can cross every finish line with a smile and a dance, I am successful, no matter what rejection I had. And that's the way I'm going to live my life. So that's how I wanted to present to you. So I wanted to give you my origin story of managing and dealing with rejection. As I mentioned, I've had a lot of rejections going back to when I was a little tiny tot, all the way through to me being a super old human woman, adult. And I have had school rejections. I've had jobs and fellowships rejections. One of my favorite rejections was when I was trying to write an article about Elon Musk. So Elon Musk, as you may know, has a physics undergraduate degree from, I believe, from the University of Pennsylvania. And I write a column for the American Physical Society in their magazine called Profiles in Versatility. It's about physicists in unexpected, non-traditional, and surprising career paths. Knowing what Elon had done with his life and his career, and that he had a physics background, I really wanted to write an article about him. So there was no way for me to find his email address. So I went and found the public relations professionals who work for Tesla and SpaceX. And I wrote them and I said, I'd love to write an article. Is there a way that I can interview Elon? And they came back right away with a very clear rejection. Hell no. So I sat on it. I didn't do anything at the moment. But about a year later, I was in a conference that was super boring. And I decided to go through my email while I was listening to the speaker. It was definitely not Noreen Grice, who is a fantastic speaker, by the way. If you ever have a chance to hear her speak about astronomy educational materials, OMG, just fantastic. So it wasn't Noreen, it was somebody else. And I was sitting in this session, I'm going through my email and I'm reminded, oh yeah, a year ago I had tried to interview Elon Musk. you know what? I got rejected, but you know what? I'm going to be persistent. I'm going to try a different route. I'm going to put on my innovation hat. I'm going to try a different route, and I'm going to go for something else, And this time I went onto his websites for SpaceX and Tesla. I found something like 25 different PR and media relations executives and professionals, and I emailed all of them. And I pitched it a different way also. I talked about how there would be a benefit that Elon would be getting. Because really, when you are faced with a rejection and when you're trying to be persistent, when you're trying to move forward in a career space, the best thing you can do is think about what is the win-win that you can present? What is the benefit that you can offer the other party? And that's a way that I have tried to embody in everything that I do when I work with clients, when I work with employers, when I work with colleagues, when I work with coaching students, coaching clients. I'm trying to see what is the benefit that I can provide that other party that will convince them to invest resources in me. And so here's what I did. I tried to convince them that the resources that would require Elon Musk to give up, right, his time, his energy to interview with me would be beneficial. And so my responses of those 25 people, the first one was a no. The second one was a no. The third one was a hell no, get the hell out of this building type of no. The next one was like a bounce back. And the next one, was a maybe. All I needed was a maybe. That's the beautiful thing, is when you get a maybe. And so I consulted with my editor before I responded, and we talked a little bit more about what else we could offer Elon and his companies. And I met with the PR person. He said he would want to meet with me to talk about the idea. And at the end of the conversation, the PR guy said, you know, Elon really appreciates his physics degree and he would love to do this interview. And so we arranged, and I did the interview, and it was really a very, very interesting experience. And I wrote a couple of articles about it. You can find it online. Just Google Elon Musk and Elena Levine and you'll easily find them. But the idea here is that Elon Musk is a huge celebrity. He is a worldwide known person. In the business world, in the space world, you know him. Many people who have contacted people like Elon Musk or Nobel laureates or PIs that are exciting that you like to work with, or Dr. Gods, as I call them, the people around which the field orbits, they've contacted these individuals, they get a no or they get a no response and they leave it be. And I am not like that. I do that, I hear it, I listen to it, but I want to see, all right, if they give me a no, is there another way that I could present it so that I can turn this into a maybe, which then could turn into a yes? That is the essence of persistence. And there is a way to be persistent across cultures so that you can be appropriate, professional, respectful, and polite. And so I really have to say that in the history of my life, one of the common themes, one of the almost always themes that have been present in my career and in my existence is absolutely persistent. I very much get a lot of no's, but I very much strive to turn those no's into maybes and potentially yeses. I am also very cognizant of not letting this moment, like I said, or this decision, this rejection, or this action of rejection define me. I am going to make sure to turn this into something positive for me. So that means that I become less afraid of the no. This is power for you, because if you get rejection after rejection after rejection, and if you are not afraid of the rejection and you are not afraid of the feelings that the rejection can bring up in you, and we're going to talk about feelings momentarily, then what you get is more power, because you get positivity out of it. Then you're more likely to go for it. You've applied from all these different REUs. All right, I've gotten rejections. I'm going to accept the data point. I'm going to see what I can do differently, better, or more. And I'm going to not be afraid of the rejection. So I'm going to be more likely to apply. And I'm going to be more likely to be persistent. I have gotten rejections on fellowships. One of my favorite rejection stories, I had applied for a fellowship several times over several years. Each time got a no. And on the last year that I decided to apply, I got a maybe. But before I got that maybe, I actually emailed the fellowship coordinator and I said, I really am committed to this fellowship. I want to do this. I think I'm going to get a lot out of it, but I think my presence could actually provide value too. Not in a cocky way, by the way. I did this in a very professional, appropriate, respectful way for the culture. And the fellow, I said, could I meet with you? Could I learn a little bit more about how I can tailor my application for this fellowship? And she got on the phone with me and we talked. And at the end, she actually, when I submitted my application, she actually emailed me and said there were two cohorts. And I didn't get into my selected cohort, the one that I really wanted, but she emailed me and said, you didn't get into A, but we do have a position in B. Would you be interested in it? I hadn't even applied for B, but because of my persistence, she had accepted me and was saving a spot for me. There was another fellowship where I applied for it and I didn't think that I had the right background. I didn't think that I had the traditional background. I thought that there was a big chance that I wasn't going to get it. I also emailed the fellowship coordinator in advance to ask him for a meeting. He met with me and he said, I like you. I want to give this to you. And he ended up giving it to me too. So this is a tactic in my persistence toolbook, is finding out who the decision maker is and emailing them in advance to let them know that I am going to be applying, but I want to learn a little bit more about the position, the role, the REU, the fellowship, the PhD program, the postdoc, whatever it is, because I want to make sure I am the right fit and I want to see how I can help. Because I have taken this into my toolbox and because I've adopted this mantra of I am not afraid of a no, I am then more likely to apply for positions, opportunities, fellowships where I am not self-selecting myself out of the process. In other words, we tend to, because we're afraid of the rejection, we tend to self-select and remove us from the competition, which means that basically we have now decided that we're not even going to get the opportunity and we're not going to get the rejection. We're not going to get anything because we've removed ourselves. We're not even going to apply because we don't think we're competitive enough. We don't think we're good enough. We don't think we're worthy. We don't think we stack up against the rest of the parties that are applying. Well, I have news for you. There are so many of us that are applying that have that same thought in our minds that I am not going to apply because I'm not good enough, and they remove themselves. The pool is always much smaller than you think. So why remove yourself because you fear rejection? Instead, take a different tactic. I'm going to embrace the possibility of rejection because there's always something I can get out of it. And instead, I'm going to apply and give myself a competitive advantage. It's so useful to be able to think like this. So what the other thing about about rejection is that a no that you get, a rejection that you get, does not mean that you failed. It does not mean that you are a failure. It simply means a couple of things, and we're going to talk more about that. But the most important thing I want to share with you is that the failure at that moment, the rejection at that moment, is actually a data point. It's a data point for you to learn from. Is there something I can do differently, better, or more? Is there a way that I can improve the way I'm marketing myself for those REUs, for those jobs? Is there something I can do to strengthen my letter of my cover letter, my research statement, teaching statement, my diversity, equity, and inclusion statement, my CV or resume? Is there something I can do to talk to the decision makers in advance to better learn what their languages, what their vocabulary is, so that I can incorporate that into my applications? In other words, what can I gain from this rejection? So the no is not a message of failure to you. It's a message of a data point. And if there's something that astronomers, cosmologists, and planetary scientists know, it is how to look at data and how to create informed decisions based on data. We're going to use those same skills to manage the rejection and to move forward. Because guess what? You're a problem solver. And so what we want to be thinking about when we gain rejection, when we have rejection, is what other problems can I solve? Maybe I am going to pivot into something new. What can I do to improve my marketing and messages, techniques, and methods? Those are the two questions I want to ask for myself, because guess what? You're an innovator and I'm an innovator, and we can innovate in the moment of rejection to be more persistent. We can innovate in the moment of rejection to think about what else we can do. So what a no doesn't mean, a no doesn't mean that you don't have value. A no doesn't mean that you aren't skilled, talented, or brilliant. A no doesn't mean that you will get a no next time. And a no doesn't mean that we, the decision makers, don't want or need you. That's what a no doesn't mean. So what does a no mean? From their perspective, from the decision maker's perspective, a no can mean very simply a resource allocation issue as it relates to you. They may not have the time or the bandwidth or the energy to be able to work with you in this way, to create something valuable. They may not have the space for somebody with your expertise at this moment. That's a resource. They may not have the money to pay you. They may not have an opportunity for you to solve problems here and now. So a lot of times when you get a no, when you're applying for things like fellowships, like jobs, like postdocs, the no does not mean that you're a failure, but rather the no means that this is not the opportunity for you at this moment in time and space, or that there is not the resources that are needed and wanted to be allocated if we are to create a fruitful collaboration. That's what a no means from their perspective. From my perspective as the applicant, a no means that it's an opportunity for me to change and improve my marketing capabilities and approach. So I want to see if this is a data point, if I got a no, and if I got many no's, and if I've gotten lots of rejection. Let's say I've applied for 50, like some of you, I've applied for 50 REUs or 50 postdocs or 50 jobs, and I've gotten 0 app interviews or 0 offers. This is a very, very useful data point. It's a useful data point because it helps us to actually whittle down what is causing the challenge, what is causing the rejection. I would argue that there is hardly, in this case, when you have zero app offers or 0 interviews, that it is partly a resource allocation issue. But when you have 0% conversion rate, it actually most likely means that there is the majority of the work that needs to be done is on your side, not on your record, not on your brilliance, but on how you are communicating your value. It's about strengthening what you are saying about yourself and how you would be a better person in this role, how you would add value in this role. So it is so useful to get the 0 because the 0 can help us actually very fine tune our communication materials and our abilities and our approach. And it's very much almost definitively about how you are marketing yourself. There may be a little percentage about the resource allocation, but when it's a 0% or very, very low percent conversion rate, it's a useful data point because it tells us that it's our communication methods and approaches that need to be adjusted. Again, not our record, not our talent, not our knowledge, not our brilliance, but how we are selling ourselves. We have talked about that in other webinars. We can talk more about that in the future, but that's just something I want you to be aware of. An additional thing about what a no means from me as the applicant is it's an opportunity to reflect on why I want or need this opportunity. In other words, if I get these no's, if I get these rejections, every rejection gives me a moment of pause and reflection to reignite why it is that I was applying for this. And to think about, is this needed? Is this fellowship needed for what I want to do in my life? Is this fellowship needed for the vision that I have for my career and how I envision my business, my life to be? Maybe it's not. Maybe it would be better for me to allocate my own resources, trying for a different opportunity, trying for a different experience, engaging in more networking rather than applying just blindly to these fellowships or jobs. So it's a really great pivot point. It's a great push-off point. It's a great platform in that moment to reflect, why did I want this opportunity? And is it something that I want to continue applying for? So I want to give you an example of that because this actually just happened to me recently. There is a fellowship that I have been applying for 3 years now. 2 years in a row, I didn't get it. Each time I changed my method. I changed how I applied. I changed what I talked about. I changed my partners. I changed the subject matter. I took their feedback because this fellowship in particular gives feedback. And they said, and by the way, they gave feedback because I asked for it. They didn't offer it. I asked for it. Always ask. When you get rejections, there is no downside to asking, can you give me please some feedback? What could I have done differently? How could I have better communicated? Or what were you looking for that I did not have? So ask for the feedback. That's part of being persistent, and it builds the bravery muscles in your brain. So in this case, I had asked for feedback for 2 years in a row. And each time I adjusted and I changed and I did something differently. I innovated. After last year, when I applied and I got a no, that was the second time, I said, there's no way I am going to allocate my resources anymore to apply for this. I'm going to shift. I'm going to go and do something different. However, when the cycle came back around this year, it had happened that I had just had a really exciting collaboration with somebody, and we had a wonderful working relationship. We produced something very, very fruitful and exciting and innovative. And I said to myself, you know what? Given the feedback that I got in year 2, they had suggested that I create a new partnership. They had suggested that I concentrate on X and Y. They had suggested that I change my methods a little bit. Given that feedback and my fruitful collaboration that I had with this person, I decided I'm going to give it a try one more time. Now I'm saying I'm going to give it a try one more time. I turned in my application a few weeks ago. I haven't heard back yet. I think it'll be probably at least another month before I hear back. So I have a couple of choices. I may get another no, and I may say, God, oh man, I am going to rip my hair out of my head and I'm never doing this again. I might say, oh God, rip my hair out of my head, have a cupcake, and then go on to something else and think about what could I have done differently, better, or more. I am certainly always going to ask for feedback to see what I could do better. I'm going to go back to my partner. We already had talked about that if this doesn't get chosen for this fellowship, we are going to pivot and think about what else we could do with this knowledge, with this application, where else we could apply this. So we are already building in a persistence model with the sense that we may get a rejection because it's a competitive fellowship. There's only a certain amount of money that's associated with it. And so if we get the rejection, we're already thinking what else we can do. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm being very honest with you because this is playing out in real time. I will promise that when I get an answer in a future webinar, I will share with you what happened and tell you how I am approaching this and what I'm going to do next. Whether I get the yes or the no, the maybe they'll come back and say, we think you should do something differently. So these are all the things I can do. And I'm going to share that with you because I really want to see when I get a no, maybe this is not the opportunity for me. Maybe there's something differently that I can do, not for this application, not for this opportunity. Maybe there's another opportunity that is more worthy of my time. So I'm going to think about this. But every no that I get is an opportunity to build resilience. And that's what we need at this time. I see that we got a question. I'm not going to identify the person because they sent it just to me and to Diane. You are welcome to throw your questions in the chat. I will be answering as many of them as I possibly can, but I want to take a moment to answer these 2 questions because I love that this person asked this. The first question is, what if the job post does not mention the person of contact, how to reach out to someone to know, how do you reach out to somebody to know or discuss more about the job and my suitability for it? So thank you for that first question. So the idea here is that, yes, the reality is that not always will we know who the decision maker is. Oftentimes it will take research on your part, and it will also take leveraging of your network. And this is why building a very diverse and big worldwide network not just in astronomy and not just in astronomy research and not just in astronomy research in your little area of galactic evolution with research institutions, that needs to be expanded. We need an expanded network. Because if you are applying for a role and you want to find out who the decision maker is in this company, in this organization, in this REU, chances are there's somebody in your network that knows that person or knows somebody in that organization that can get you to that person. So if you can't identify the person in the advertisement, you should leverage your network and seek out people and ask them, do you know anybody in that fellowship? or in that job, or do you know this person who in this division? Because it will actually potentially give you advantage, right? Because you can get to that person. The second question this person asks is, I always ask for feedback, but rarely get any reply. So how do I phrase my email when asking for feedback for an interview or an application? And again, thank you to this person for asking that great question. So the way we phrase it is, thank you so much for your consideration of my application. While I am disappointed I didn't get this opportunity, I understand that a lot of factors go into the decision-making process. But I do want to confirm that I am truly committed to this fellowship, this job, this opportunity, and I would absolutely love to work with you in the future. Do you have any feedback for me? Was there something that I could have done differently, better, or more to communicate my fit for this role? What can I do differently in the future to get on your radar and to potentially collaborate with you? Thank you so much for this opportunity and for your feedback. I appreciate it, and I look forward to hearing from you soon and to potentially working with you in the future. Please do not hesitate to contact me when an opportunity arises. So it's as simple as that. So I hope that's helpful to you. I see we got another question. This is also anonymous. Oh, this is again, how do you apply? Oh, well, no, it's a different question. I like this question. How do you apply again if there's no feedback? I've had trouble not knowing what I'm doing wrong, and I don't want to change the things that are good. The feedback from my advisor has always been positive, so we're not sure where I'm going wrong. So thank you very much for that question. So the way I think about this is, first of all, again, going to your network, right? Sharing the materials that you've sent for the job to other people in your network so they can evaluate it. They can give you a fresh eye. Diversity is the key to innovation. So by giving somebody else the chance to review what you've done, and perhaps even to do a rehearsal with you beyond your advisor for the interview, additional people in your network worldwide to do a interview prep, to get a different perspective, that diversity is going to give you power. It's going to give you innovation and a different way of seeing things. So that's going to help you to potentially get feedback. So that's one way. The second way is that you can always ask for feedback. It's true that not everybody will give feedback. You're absolutely right about that. So, but it doesn't hurt to ask. So, but what you can do is you can start talking to other people in your network, even beyond the job advertisement and the job application, before you apply, and asking for feedback on your materials to see how it sounds, to see if you're presenting yourself well. So I think that that is potentially something that can help you, and I hope that's helpful to you. I'm going to take some more questions in a bit. Just keep them coming. You can throw them in the Q&A. You can throw them in the chat. I will take some more questions. So I really appreciate your activity and your engagement. That's so much fun for me. I want to give you a tool that I have been sharing with all of my coaching clients. I am sharing it and in as many webinars as I possibly can. I'm shouting it from the rooftops. I am shouting it from every exoplanet that I could possibly find. And there's thousands of them, as you know, more are coming every day. And it is a tool that we can use in our brains. It's a framework that we can use to take a no and turn it into something positive for us. And it is all about identifying where a feeling, an emotion comes from, and why we have the power to change the feeling. So the model is called the ABC model of cognitive behavioral therapy. You can Google it. It was designed and organized, or instituted, I should say, or created by Dr. Albert Ellis many, many, many years ago. I think something like 30 years ago. And the idea is, spoiler alert, is that feelings that we have are caused not by a moment in time and space, not by an event, but by our belief about the event. So the ABC model is the activating event, the belief, the consequential feeling, and it goes in that order. So the idea is that when I have an emotional response, like I get a no, or I get 20 or 50 no's, 50 rejections, and I have a feeling, a sadness, a frustration, an anger, and anxiety, the anxiety is actually not coming from the no itself. It's coming from my belief about the no. Now, you and I know that we cannot change the physical space and time of the universe. That is something we have no control over. However, we do have control over how we believe and what we believe about an event. And when we recognize that we can change our belief about the event, that means that we can change our feeling and therefore our reaction and therefore our next move as it relates to our belief about the event. Let me give you an example. This is a real life example, two real life examples, actually. So the first real life example is from when I was in high school. I ran for the student council for my class. I believe it was in my junior year. And vice president, I wanted to be vice president of my class. I ran for it. I did not get it. I think I got the second lowest number of votes out of the total number. And there was only something like maybe 6 or 7 people running for that office. And I got the second lowest number of votes. Do you want to know how many votes I got? Would you like to know? I got, if I recall correctly, 26 votes. So 26 people out of, I think, a class of either 250 or 350 people voted for me. 26 people. In that moment, I want to tell you the absolute truth. I never, ever felt bad about that number. The number is the activating event. The feeling that I had was triumph, happiness, because you know why? My belief about that event, my belief about that number was, wow, I convinced 26 people to vote for me. I am so proud of myself. I am so happy. I can't believe it. I am so excited. That is success that I convinced 26 people to vote for me. And as a result, I never had a negative feeling in my mind or my heart about that experience to this day. And that was 35 years ago, something like that. Maybe 34 years ago, maybe 33 years ago, whatever. The point is, it was decades ago. And I've never felt bad about that. It was because I always believed that it was a good thing, not a bad thing. However, recently I moved. I actually moved twice in the last year. First, I moved in with my fiance, and then recently my fiance and I bought a home and we moved in together. And when I moved in June of last year, I was moving out of the house that I had lived in for, I think it was something like 16 years. It was a very emotional experience. It was the first house I had bought as an adult, and I had lived in that house with my mother who had passed away. So that house meant so much to me. It meant so much to my history. It meant so much to my memories of my relationship with my mother and to the memories I had of my mother and of the sadness that I had had when she passed away. So the emotional response that I had to the move was about my belief about the move. I was actually very, very upset. I was crying. I was sad. I was anxious about it. I had fear. What if I lose the memories? What if I lose this? What if I make a mistake? All these things were coming up. And I asked my counselor about this, and she said, let's do ABC. So the activating event is the move, but it's my belief that's changing, that's causing the emotion. So we went back in time and I thought to myself, what is the belief? The belief that I have right now, the belief is I believe that I'm going to lose something by moving. But what if I change that to a belief about, I believe that I'm going to gain something from moving, that I'm going to be moving into a new home with somebody who I love. We're going to be building a future together. We're going to be able to decorate together. We're going to be able to do exciting things together in this new home. And that I'm not losing the memories because they'll stay in my mind and my heart, but I will gain something from the move. And when I made that shift in my belief about the activating event of the move, suddenly my emotional response changed for the better. And suddenly I had happy thoughts, joyous thoughts, exciting thoughts, loving thoughts, just positivity all around. Now, to be clear, that shift, because it's a mental shift that requires our attention, it requires our intention. It requires us to be cognizant of the moment that we're having this feeling and then going back to the belief and then analyzing what is the belief that's causing this feeling and then being able to take a different route. That shift did not happen in a moment and it didn't happen overnight. It took weeks to do this. And still, even to this day, I have to go back and think about the positivity. But it did happen. And it changed my heart and my mind for the better, which unburdened me from negative feelings. This is what we can do with rejection. We can choose to believe that the rejection is something positive. Yes, it sucks to get a no from anyone at any time, but we can choose to believe something differently about it, something positive. All right, I got this rejection. I'm going to take this and I'm going to think about this differently. I'm going to turn this into something positive, that I can be stronger, that I can be better, that I can think about maybe something differently that I can do with my career, that I can improve my skills, that I can be persistent and strong and brave in the way I'm approaching my abilities. This is what I'm going to do. So when you have a moment of quote unquote negative emotions in your life, particularly when you have rejection, and particularly when you have had multiple rejections, I want you to please do yourself a favor and give yourself a gift and go back and do the ABC model in your mind. Identify what the activating event was. It was the rejection. Identify the feeling and then think about what the belief was. And can you turn this belief into something positive that can help you? So what does persistence say about me? When I am persistent, when you are persistent, what does it say about you? It shows you that you have a very positive attitude about things. It shows that you have strong character. It shows you that the way you approach and solve problems is healthy, is strong, is vibrant. It shows you the way you treat your colleagues, your boss, and yourself. When you are persistent, it shows people that you are laser focused on solving a problem, whether that problem is you getting a job or a fellowship or an REU, whether that opportunity is I'm going to keep submitting my paper to different journals until I get a yes. It shows people that you are laser focused on helping yourself, helping your community, helping your team, your boss, your project, your colleagues, your company, your organization, your university. You're helping advance the field of astronomy. That is what persistence says about you. It also shows, it says so much about the way you face challenges, setbacks, uphill battles. It shows people that you have respect for yourself and others. Yes, you get a rejection, but that's not going to define you. It also shows you how good your communication skills are and that you are willing to improve them, that you are willing to allocate resources for your health, your career health, your mental health to improve. It shows that you have a goal-orientedness. These are all fascinating, and these are all important attributes that make up who you are. This is what persistence shows about you. Many years ago, I'd say something about 7 or 8 years ago, there was an association, and it wasn't AAS, by the way. There was an association that was on my radar that I really wanted to work with. I did not have a network contact with them, and I decided to send them a cold email. And I sent to this particular person a cold email, and I said, I'd love to talk with you. Could we meet? I think there might be an opportunity to collaborate. He didn't respond. I decided to be persistent. I sent him another email. He didn't respond. At this point, I was thinking, you know what? I am not going to take no. I'm just going to keep going. And I emailed him. I gave him a phone call. I left him a voicemail. I got a no. He didn't respond. I sent him one more email, if I recall. I still got nothing. And then I sent one final email. I said to myself, you know what? I have a choice at this moment. This is an inflection point. I can choose to continue investing resources of mine into this to see if it could actually culminate in something positive, or I can choose to take a different path. Either way, I'm going to come out ahead because I am going to make sure that I, for myself, see this rejection not as a reflection on who I am, but as a potential opportunity to do something different in a different space. Okay, so I tried it one more time, and this time I sent an email to that guy and then the head of the association, and I think like 1 or 2 other people. At that point, he responded, and he said he'd be happy to meet with me. And he also said, after we met, he said, the timing is perfect. I love that phrase. Listen for that. The timing is perfect because we do have an opportunity that I'd like to talk to you about. I ended up working with that organization. I still work with that organization to this day. They're one of my most favorite clients. When I first met this person in person at the conference that he hired me to speak at a few months later, he apologized to me for all of the time that he did not respond. And he actually said to me, I can see why you are so successful, because you are persistent. In other words, he appreciated my persistence, number one. He acknowledged that the success that I had was tied to the persistence. By the way, I want to clarify that persistence does not equal success. It is just one of the factors that may contribute to your success. It does not define the success, but it's a piece of it. And number three, it was something of a revelation to hear him acknowledge it in a respectful way, because clearly I had been being respectful to him. And number four, he mentioned the time. It went back to this idea of the allocation of resources on his part. He didn't have the allocation at this moment, so I was going to be persistent. That was what I was thinking of. I wasn't thinking of a timing at the moment when I was being persistent, but it gave me the mindset of when I am persistent, I am giving myself the opportunity to shine for when they do have the resources to give me. And by being persistent, I am implanting in their mind my brand, my promise of value, so that when an opportunity, when the resources are available, they think of me. My persistence pays off. That's the idea. And so I gained all of this from just that statement that he made to me, as well as the long-term collaboration, which has brought joy. But the idea here is that we must be persistent. So let's talk about how you actually handle the rejection, how you handle the rejection. The rejection, most of all, importantly, is that this is not a moment that defines you, but it is a moment in time and space, but it is only one moment. In other words, it's not a spectrum. It's a single point in time and space that is very fleeting. And yes, I know for many of you, including myself, we've gotten dozens of rejections. We will continue to get dozens of rejections all the time. And you know what? Our job is to remember, especially since we define the universe as astronomers, that this is a moment in time and space, but it is not the full spectrum of our existence or of the universe. You know, I, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, my livelihood is dependent on me constantly engaging clients, continuing to sell clients, continuing to book clients, and continuing to expand my client base. So find new clients and sell them my services. So I constantly have to be marketing and selling myself all the time. That means, as you could probably guess, that I am very familiar with rejection. Rejection is a constant companion in my business. It has to be, right? But every rejection I get, I am thinking about what can I do differently? And if this is rejecting, do I want to be persistent in this moment? Maybe I don't. Maybe this isn't worth it to me, because what I am doing is building a cost-benefit analysis of every opportunity. After doing this multiple times, maybe I want to adjust myself and do something differently. Or maybe I want to continue being persistent. But you know who has that choice? Me. And you know who has the choice in the face of rejection? You. You have that choice. But it is a moment in time and space. I also want to make sure, to handle rejection, that I understand that this is not personal. It may feel personal. In fact, it does feel personal because it's happening to me. But because it is most likely a rejection relating to resource allocation, it's business. It's not about me and my talent. It is not a statement about my talent. It is about resources. So that means it's business. It's not personal. By the way, all of these tactics that I'm giving you about how to manage rejection are all in an article that I referenced there at the bottom that I wrote for Science Magazine a couple of years ago. Diane, if you could throw that link into the chat, I would appreciate it. This is an article I wrote about how to handle rejection and continue your persistence. This third thing I think about when I handle rejection is that this is not a way, as I've mentioned, to measure who I am and my value. I'm not going to hesitate also to be persistent. I am going to be persistent, but I do have the choice to be persistent. If I want to be, I can. If I don't want to be, that's okay. Of the many rejections that I get, and I get rejected every day, and I do mean that literally, practically literally. Practically literally, I get a no every single day of my life, from emails, from contacts, from engagements, from connections I have made, from asks that I have made from people. I get a no almost pretty much every day. So in the face of all of those no's, 365 no's a year or more, how do I manage? I manage because I think about it as an entrepreneur, just like you are a career entrepreneur. I'm looking for opportunities to solve problems. So first of all, I'm going to look about at this moment, is there a way that I can solve this problem of getting that opportunity differently? Can I present my value in a new way? Can I offer something new that I didn't mention? Can I reference somebody else? Can I bring a new collaborator in, like I did with that new fellowship that I applied for the third time this year? I'm also looking at it. Maybe I want to pivot. Maybe I want to do something differently. Maybe getting the rejections are giving me an idea. You know what? Maybe this is not actually what I want to do. Maybe I want to try a different region, different community, different job, different sector, different client base, different network. So each time I'm getting the rejection, it's an opportunity for me to clarify my commitment and my desire to do X for myself and to do X for my community. You know, I had gotten many years ago, my second job that I got at the University of Arizona. I did not get that job immediately. In fact, I was invited to apply for this job. I was working in the physics department at the University of Arizona as a director of communications, and I was invited by the dean to apply for a new job that he was opening. It was a brand new role. He asked me to apply for it. And I thought, wow, this is great. That definitely means I'm going to get the job, right? Because when you are invited to apply, you definitely get the job. Well, I applied for the job and I didn't get the job. And he said, you know, Elena, don't take this personally. There was another candidate who came in who just has so much more experience in this particular space than you at this moment. I had to give it to her. So it really was a resource allocation, but in this case, it was about the resources that the candidate could offer him at this moment in time. In other words, it also was about a resource allocation for him because he didn't have the time to invest in me upskilling and getting ready, ramping up to be able to deliver value. He only had a limited amount of time. And he could see that that was his resource allocation that he had to adhere to. And he could see that this person had more resources to offer in that limited window. So he went with her. And you know what I did? I sent him a thank you note. I actually wrote him a thank you note and I used the same verbiage as I did before. And a few months later, he actually left and became provost at another university. There was a shift in personnel and suddenly that job was open again. And then I was invited to apply again. And this time it really was given to me. The dean invited me into his office, the new dean, and said, when you start, what will you be doing on the first day? That was about resource allocation, but it was a chance for me to commit to myself and to commit to the organization one more time. So how to be persistent? It will be uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie. It's not easy and it's not comfortable to be able to say, you're giving me a no? Why? Can I do something differently? But you have to know what your comfort level is and identify what actions and use of words you could do to improve. And you have to ask, what can I do? Can I take an action that will move me forward, allow me to grow and improve my comfort level? I want to also be very respectful of social norms and culture. I want to remember what my goal is: to solve the problem, to add value, to clarify what I can do and why you should partner with me. And I also want to do a cost-benefit analysis of being persistent. What are the risks in being persistent here? What are the potential rewards? And see which one is outweighing the other. In other words, could this backfire? The answer is yes, it could. If you continuously be persistent, if you never stop, you're going to shut a door, possibly. So what happens is the more persistent you are in general in your career, you begin to develop an ability to sense where is the fine line where you should stop being persistent and shift to another organization. That comes with experience. And that's why you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable and being persistent, because rejection requires reflection. What could I have done differently, better, or more? So in summary, what I'm looking at when I look at rejection is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to be stronger. It's an opportunity to be more resilient. It's an opportunity to reflect on whether I want to do X or do something else. And it's an opportunity for me to think about what could I offer this organization in a better way? What more could I give them? What more value could I offer? Rejection, in my opinion, is a bundle of data points, some relating to you and what you can do differently, better, or more, but also some where you don't have control over. And I want you to know that because, yes, we can use the ABC model. We can think about rejection differently, more positively. But we also have to realize that there will always be data points that we don't have control over. We can look at it as an allocation of resources. We can look at it as a no, as a chance to pivot. But we also need to recognize that while there's a lot we can control, including our emotional response and belief about the rejection, there's also a lot we can control. And that's where the allocation of our resources and knowing how to allocate those resources comes in handy. The more we are rejected, the more persistent we are, the more we engage, and the more strong we get in terms of improving our ability of weighing what data points we have control over and what data points we don't, and what tactic, what route we want to take at this inflection point. Because the rejection does require data analysis, which you know how to do. But I have to say that rejection, honestly, catalyzes. It catalyzes persistence. It gives you the opportunity to be persistent. And the persistence that we use now is how we will advance our careers, our teams, our projects, our communities, and how we will serve everyone in astronomy. It is persistence that is what gets the job done, not staying back and accepting the rejection as a data point, as something that is happening to us. Persistence is how we move forward. And that is how you build your unicorn career. So I want to thank you so much. This has been, as always, a real privilege and an opportunity to collaborate with you. I'm going to leave this up for a moment. I'm going to answer your questions. Thank you so much. This is always just such a pleasure and a real blessing to be able to work with you. And I want to thank Diane and the whole team at AAS for your sponsorship. Remember all of the exciting things that are coming up with AAS in the next coming weeks. Diane, I'd like to stick around if it's all right for a few minutes just to answer a few questions. And also for those of you who have to go, just a reminder, Diane did throw it in the chat. You're welcome to book a 30-minute or an hour-long session with me or more to have your resume, your CV reviewed, to analyze those rejections that you've received, to talk about how we can move your career forward. I'm a career coach with AAS, and I can help you. And you can do that through that link or through the AAS Career Services part of the AAS website. So I hope you'll go on to that. I'm going to stick around for any additional questions you have. Thank you all so much. This has been such a pleasure. As always, you're welcome to continue connecting with me on LinkedIn, Elena G. Levine, and also tweeting at Elena G. Levine at AAS_office. I'm going to take away the image there. And now I'm just going to take a look at your questions, throw them in the chat, throw them in the Q&A. Let me see what other questions we have. So somebody asked a question: when is it appropriate to negotiate working conditions such as flexibility, remote work, and time off? You know what? I'm going to hold that question. That's a wonderful question. Because this talk was about rejection, I'm going to hold off on that question until we do a webinar about negotiation in the future. But I'd like to tell that person or anybody who wants to have a deep dive about negotiation, that's a perfect thing that you can meet with me to talk about. We could actually do the negotiation. So if you get an offer, if you're thinking about getting an offer, I can do the negotiation with you in the career services, career coaching session. So I hope you'll book that with me. So thank you for that question. Somebody else asks, I am trying to be persistent, learning skills when I'm in the application phase, but in the small world, people are constantly checking my profiles on social media, and it's giving them the wrong info sometimes if I put unemployed title over there. What do I do in that case? Thank you. So I really appreciate this question because it really goes to say, what do you do to brand yourself? How do you communicate who you are? Your title on social media, in Twitter and LinkedIn, does not have to be PhD student looking for a job or unemployed astronomer. It can be a reflection of the types of problems that you solve. So if you take a look at my LinkedIn profile, my headline is not hire me. It's not give me money. It's not I can do this for you. It's keynote speaker, science writer, career coach, comedian. It's telling you what I can do for you. It's telling you what my value is, what problems I solve, but it's not asking you necessarily to hire me. And I'm not saying I don't have a job right now, even if I don't have a job right now. I'm simply saying what my value is that I give the community. That's what your headline is. So it doesn't have to say anything about you being unemployed. I hope that is helpful to you. I think that's a great question. As always, you are welcome. And Diane, if you could throw my email address in the chat, if people want to email me with quick questions, you're welcome to do that. Also, best to connect with me on LinkedIn because I do post a lot about these types of things. This person asks, and I really appreciate you asking this question, what about being persistent in giving rejections when you hate to disappoint but have to tell people no? Any advice on how to keep them from ruining your day? So, and also from ruining their day. So I appreciate this question. So the reality is that as we advance in our career, we will have to give rejections, no matter where we are, no matter what role we have. So getting used to giving rejections with respect, with politeness, with where we are honoring the other person is an art. It's not, I think, a science. I think it's an art. And the earlier we get used to doing that, I think that's going to actually help us. So get used to using language that honors the other person, thanks them for their time, lets them know that there were so many factors that go into the decision-making process, but we really do appreciate your time. If you would not want to have them apply again, you don't have to say that, but you could say, you don't have to give them another window. You can just say, thank you very much. We wish you the best of luck in your endeavors. If you want to work with them in the future, you can say, we do appreciate what you submitted. We would like to work with you in the future, and let's see if we can stay connected. And if an opportunity comes up, I will let you know. And you can please let me know what you're doing. Keep me apprised of your progress. When they get a rejection, when people get rejection, sometimes they act like jerks. And you as an individual, as a leader, your job is to insulate yourself against that. So when people respond, if people do respond and say, how dare you reject me? You're a jerk for rejecting me. Don't you know that I'm the best person that ever existed in the history of astronomy, and you're making the biggest mistake in the universe, and you suck, and all sorts of different expletives. When that happens, and sometimes it does happen, what you can do is recognize that this person is being unprofessional, they are being disrespectful, and they are showing their true colors, and they're giving you a window into you making the right decision in not accepting them and not giving them the opportunity. They actually just showed what they'd be like to work with. So you can express thanks to the universe that they behave this way, because now you know you never have to work with them. Because if they're going to behave like that in the face of a rejection, that is somebody who is going to be not a good colleague. Because you know what? Today, we talked about rejection in the job application and the fellowship application experience, but we will also experience rejection in our jobs. We will go to our boss and ask for something and we won't get it. We'll ask for a promotion. We'll ask for tenure. We'll ask for more money. We won't get it. We'll ask our colleagues for something. We won't get it. We'll propose an opportunity and we won't get it. We're going to face rejection day to day to day. That has nothing to do with the job's ability itself, but it has to do with the nature of the work that you're doing. And so the more we get used to accepting the rejection in an honorable and respectful way, giving honorable and respectful rejections, the more we're going to be able to move forward in time and advance in our career. So I think that's a really good question. I really appreciate that. I wanted to see if there's any other questions. Somebody asked again about asking for feedback on my application to the admissions committee. I do think that that's fine. Why not? Again, you were rejected. So what's the worst that can happen? So by emailing the committee head and saying, I really appreciate this. I had a lovely time interviewing with you. I really appreciated our conversation, but I'd like to see maybe there's a way that we could work together in the future, or I am really committed to your university. Would you be able to give me some feedback? Because maybe I can apply in the future again. You never know what can happen from that. So I think it's always a good idea to consider asking for feedback. So I think that's all the questions that we have. Did you see any others, Diane, that you wanted to bring to my attention?
No, I think you covered them all, and thanks. Brilliant webinar.
Thank you, and brilliant collaboration as always, Diane. Thank you so much. So I hope that I will see you all at the Data Science conference on the 30th of March. I think it's going to be fantastic. Thank you, AAS, for hosting that, and Jeffrey Silverman, who I know is involved in that. And thank you to all of you for your kind attention. And always, I don't wish you good luck. I just say, enjoy your amazing adventure towards your unicorn career. You rock, astronomers. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Elena. And everyone out there, stretch those bravery muscles. I love that.
Bye, everyone. Thanks so
right.
much.
Bye-bye.